What am I doing with my hands? I don't know. Are they magical? Will they cast spells? Will it be a good one? I don't know. Just chilling with my little bee buddy. Buddy bee. Buddy be flooding. Buddy be hovering. You know, I will continue to say this. I was saying this to myself, but I'm gonna say this for the first time to y'all right now. Oscillatory flight is the easiest way to achieve flight because it's the most natural that you see in nature, no matter if the oscillations are low frequency via bird flapping their wings or high oscillation like bees, butterflies, and wasps. You feel what I'm saying? And even with butterflies, they use surface area to move more air so that they can fly higher. Bees, for the amount of weight that they have, their wings are shorter, and yet, proportionally to their size, it's also larger too. Like if you were to scale a bee up, if you were to scale a bee up, the wings would be big, but the bee's body would be bigger. Huh. So that would mean that if a bee is still able to fly when you scale it up, that would mean that it naturally oscillates. Like it learned how to just hover based off of nothing but oscillatory pressure. And I like that because seeing this everywhere, and even with ladybugs, and if you observe ladybugs, you would see how unique that they fly. Like they don't directly hover just like that. They hover in a diagonal type of direction, into which they'll spiral upwards to gain momentum to go upwards. If you were to observe a ladybug, that's exactly what you would see. And it's just multiple ways for bugs and animals to really fly. It's just that when you scale higher, it's like mammals, birds, and even some reptiles, they just flap. They don't use high oscillatory movement. And that's because they're bigger. And I actually mess with that, and I see why. Like, if you're larger, you're not gonna have something that flaps quickly. Especially with a special case called hummingbirds. Because if you see hummingbirds, you know that they flap their wings quick like that. But their wings are so delicate to the point where they can't sustain it. Or like they'll they are fragile. I'll say that much. And because they're fragile, they can't output as much power as they want to. That's why they're constantly eating. That's well sucking at the nectar. But still, that also says a lot. If you have more speed, especially in terms of oscillations, and it gets you up off the ground, you're 10 times out of 10 working with way less power than if you were to have less speed in terms of oscillations and it's still being able to push you upwards, you know? Like basically, a bird that flaps its wings at 3 hertz a second versus a bee that flaps its wing at 10 kilohertz. The difference is substantial, and they could use the same exact amount of energy, but because of how evolutionary wise their designs are different, bees have to be able to do that, especially with how they're designed and how they operate. Birds, on the meanwhile, they operate on a completely different scale, into which they don't have to, I wouldn't say they wouldn't have to fit into tight spaces. But bees, I wouldn't even say depending, but based on evolution, they are naturally able to oscillate their wings at 10 kilohertz or higher. I can't name the specific, but yeah, and because of that, that just sums up everything. Oscillations are the way to go for flight, no matter which way you splice it. Meaning anything that's rotary in nature just would not work. And that's just a fact. Anything that's rotary in nature would not work. And if it does, not as efficiently. Because nature would have showed us all of this. Especially with hover tech. Have y'all ever wondered how a bee could just stay in one particular spot, or how a wasp or something like those? Like, you don't get that with helicopters, especially not with energy efficiency. You don't get that. All you get is just like, yeah, it's in the air, but not only is it loud, not only are you also feeling the wind, also losing a whole bunch of energy, because if you know about freaking rotor mechanics, that rotation is constant and you're constantly using that energy. Meanwhile, if you have some sort of oscillatory input that can affect an oscillatory output, then boom, you can maintain and sustain your own hovering. And that's, if there's one question that I want people to ask for themselves, is that why is it that nature shows us that everything flies with oscillations, but we chose rotations? Now, keep in mind, I said oscillations. I didn't say vibrations. Two completely different ones. Oscillations are more general. Vibrations are in one direction. You can have an oscillation on a torque, meaning you can have this and it will count as partial rotation and partial vibration. Vibration because it's going back and forth, and rotation because it's has torque being applied to it. I gotta slow down, and I also gotta breathe. So yeah, it's very strange how you don't see no animal, no bug, no creature, no none of that, especially on larger scales, just have something that is able to keep them hovering in flight. And this is what I want to present to y'all. If you want a more powerful hoverboard, a more powerful hovercraft, or something like that, you're going to have to output more power, but slowly. Basically, in the subsonic hertz frequency ranges. But if you want faster flapping or faster oscillations, you're going to have to oscillate that in the ultrasonic ranges or in the near ultrasonic ranges. Think 16 kilohertz and higher. And that's interesting, right? And I keep coming back to this. Why does nature show us? Well, why is it that nature hasn't designed anything around torque? And anything that is designed around torque, right? Especially with the flapping hinges of this, it's just primarily oscillatory in nature, which technically is vibratory too. It's just not a full rotation. Hmm. Hmm. But who said that vibrations and oscillations had to be straight, right? Because generally speaking, when we do refer to those type of things, when you oscillate or vibrate, you're basically going from one state to the next. Like basically, you're going to an up and down state, or back state or a left and right state. But no one has ever really thought about, oh, I can go from 0 degrees to 180 degrees, back to zero, back to 180, back to zero, 180. Wait, 180 is here. 0, 180, 0, 180, 0, 180, 0. And it just oscillates between that. And it's not, I'm not going to say it's not. It's the fact that you're going between two different states and you're using that to balance yourself, or you're using that to achieve a specific goal, per se. Like, you want to achieve 1,000 push-ups, but you can only do 100 at a time. So you're oscillating between doing push-ups and resting. And you do push-ups and you rest until you reach that goal. Meaning sometimes you oscillate to reach a goal, and sometimes you oscillate to maintain something. Hold on, let me clear my throat. And first, before I do anything, screw it. Okay. And I got that out the way. You oscillate to also maintain a specific state of being or a specific thing. And what I mean by that is hovering. Birds flap their wings up and down, up and down, up and down to achieve a state of counteracting gravity. Bees do the same exact thing, but more precisely. And there's the difference. You want to know why bees are able to stay in one single spot, but birds can't do that? Or if they try to, they'll just go higher and then lower and then higher. It'll be drastically different. And the reason being is because of the oscillatory pressure. Like, if they're constantly hovering between two states of having pressure rise them up and also having gravity counteract them, and then the answer isn't how do I achieve more energy? The answer is how can I oscillate something so quick to the point where when I bob up and down, it'll seem like I'm hovering. But it's really just me oscillating between two states of being via me having gravity impact me versus a whole bunch of pressure pushing me back up. And I believe that's what it is. Hold on. Wait a minute. That's why you have those special cases like hummingbirds that are able to hover in a specific place and then fly away. That's why you have bees, wasps, all of those that are able to hover in one single spot. They hover because their wings are creating pressures so quickly to the point where it's not only counteracting gravity, but every time gravity tries to bring them back down, there's always pressure that keeping them back up. And they oscillate between those type of two states, which gives the illusion of hovering. But in actuality, when you shrink down small enough and you truly see from a different perspective, you would see, oh, they're bobbing back and forth between gravity bringing them down and pressure pushing them back up. And the more input energy they put into their own bodies, right, the higher that they go. And that's the thing about frequencies too. And if I'm talking slow, then I am making sure that I get all of my words out correctly so that I don't stutter, so that I don't misinterpret or misplace or missay a single word that is not intended for the point that I'm trying to make to y'all. With that being said, you could fly. You can fly. I think that's what nature is showing us. You can fly on low frequencies and you can fly on high frequencies. You can fly on ultrasonic frequencies. But the only way that you'll hover is if you go to those higher frequencies. Lower frequencies won't allow you to stay in a particular space. You'll bob up and down 1 foot, literally. You will bob up and down 1 foot if you were to oscillate lower frequencies on the subsonic frequencies, say between 1 to 50 hertz, versus if you were to use that same amount of power and oscillate yourself or whatever you're affecting, now all of a sudden, boom, you're in one singular spot. You're still bobbing up and down, but it's so fast to the point where you can't see it. And honestly, if you want proof of that illusion happening, just go and look at speakers. While not directly correlated, you will see that you can hear a subwoofer. You can hear a subwoofer going off in the audible range, but because it's going so quick and so fast, you won't even see the diaphragm moving. But as soon as you lower the frequency down to the subsonic ranges, now all of a sudden you see it vibrating so quickly like this, and you're like, huh, it's vibrating and it's still on and I hear the sound. But when I raise the frequency, it's not even vibrating. It doesn't even look like it's moving. Yet I know it's moving because I hear it. And when I touch the speaker, I also feel it. You know what I'm saying? That same effect is what you see in bees, not butterflies, bees, ladybugs, wasps, mosquitoes, and hummingbirds. You see that same effect of fast oscillations keeping you in a particular spot, and people interpreting that as hovering, into which, while yes, you could see that as a type of hovering, it'd be more accurate to call it something like, say, oscillating between higher pressure and lower pressure. Hovering between and oscillating between having gravity hit you and having a huge amount of pressure push you back up. And let's say, I need a stick. I need a stick. This mug will do. Let's say GC is gravity countering. The amount of newtons it would take for you to counteract gravity. Let's say GC per hertz. Let's say that GC per hertz, nothing else. Like every 1 hertz, no matter if it's for a second or 1/16th of a second, that's GC being outputted. Now, let's say you have 1 hertz oscillating in your design of your machine. Now all of a sudden you're bouncing, but you're not really going anywhere, you know? You're bouncing up and down, up and down, up and down per second, and you're not really going anywhere. Compare that to when you do it for 20 hertz. Now all of a sudden, boom, 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 boom. You're still moving, but you're feeling those vibrations. Like it's still affecting you. Now let's say you go higher on the frequency scale. Say 432, 528, 417, around those type of frequencies. Now all of a sudden, boom, you like this. It's still vibrating and oscillating, But because it's outputting GC so quickly, you really don't see a difference. It's just like this. Like it's just hovering. And one more benefit of this, and this is why I love nature, is because the fact that you can move dynamically with it. You can move slowly, and then you can just all of a sudden move fast like that. That's the that's the secondary benefit of this, especially with frequency control. Like once you have enough energy to counteract gravity in a fast or slow oscillation rate, now it's all about how you direct it. Now you can just go up, you can go sideways, you can go diagonal, you can go anywhere, fast, slow, no matter what. And you wouldn't have to input any more energy. The only thing you'd have to affect is the frequency. And if that's the case, that would mean that the amplitude is what's needed to be achieved. Meaning we cannot trade frequency for amplitude, nor amplitude for frequency. There has to be a way for amplitude to stay the same, have it be more than enough to counteract gravity, while also being able to dynamically affect the frequency. So that when that does happen, you're still outputting the same amount of force per second, per hertz, not per second. You're outputting the same amount of force per hertz. But depending on how many hertz you have per second, depends on how smooth your hovering will be to the naked eye, as well as how high you are willing to go. Because I honestly don't know how those type of oscillations would affect height. Right now, I'm just telling y'all how it would affect basically buoyancy in terms of that. But other than directional flight, I couldn't say that. Now, the only way that I could achieve that is if I were to mimic that of a ladybug. And again, they fly diagonally. They use all that pressure to not only keep them afloat, not even keep them afloat, they use all that pressure to basically directionally move them in that way. Right? Mm, there we go. You use it to mimic it. You don't do exactly what they do, but you use the specific technique that they use. If you observe that a ladybug diagonally moves their body, then that means you have to diagonally move your body. That doesn't mean you should just go on the 45-degree axis and just be like, I mean, you could if you have specific tech, but it's more like if you have a hoverboard or a hovercraft, you wouldn't lean downwards to go up. You feel what I'm saying? You would lean backwards to fly upwards, right? Because being balanced, you're really not just having any pressure affect you. But when you have an imbalance thereof, because most of your weight is shifted back here, meanwhile, less up here, and you're oscillating back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, guess what's gonna happen? Boom, 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 boom. You're gonna hover in a directional way to the point where you can basically realign yourself like this, and you'll maintain a state of hemisync. Matter of fact, I'm finna go find a good prefix for this. Yeah, hemisync. If hemi means two or balance, then yeah. I'm not gonna say bisync. But having your weight balance out when you are hovering. That's what it is. Having your weight balance out like this. Your weight, your center of gravity is right here. As soon as you move it right here, you have more weight here and less weight up there, and the same amount of pressure is happening, you'll shoot up. And then you can just do like this or be like this. Hmm. And so the real question is, if you were to get to that particular spot, how do frequencies affect your dynamic movement? Because what if it takes 432 hertz for you to fly, but then you lower it down to 353? Not because it won't oscillate you like this, but because for you to move comfortably in a direction that's straight, you'll either have to lean backwards like this so that you can constantly bob like this and move in a direction, or you'll move like this, constantly bobbing and moving in a direction. Huh. You really think about it. I'm over here talking about how frequencies can cause you to stay in a particular space, and you can hover, not even hover, just oscillate between those two spaces to the point where it seems like hovering. And I'm over here talking about how you can dynamically move with it. I haven't really thought about how the frequencies would change, whether you would raise or lower it, depending on whether you want to go forwards or backwards, and depending on how your weight is being shifted. Huh. Meaning, finding a way to control these, no, not control, finding a way to fine tune these frequencies while maintaining the exact amplitude into which you're applying can cause you to basically move with nature. I'm gonna be honest with you, you're moving with nature at that point because you're not going off of, okay, let me reach this specific frequency here. And that's the thing about frequencies. You don't have to be precise. You just have to be intuitive with it. You just have to go off of what feels right. And basically, just go off of vibes. Like if you know that the higher the frequency is, or the higher those are, the higher you go and the more of a direction you go here, you do that. And you fine tune it. It's exactly like driving. Like you don't, whenever you're driving, you don't be like, okay, every 10 seconds, it always drifts to the right at approximately 15 degrees. So let me go and turn my hand 9 degrees to account for this, that, and the third. You don't do that. People don't do that while they're driving. People intuitively turn the steering wheel because they know, okay, this is what manages the gas and this is what fine tunes my direction. Only this time, your steering is your entire body and the frequency controller. The amplitude is always there. Oh, thank you, Auntie. Auntie just let me know that what it was. Once you find a way to output enough newtons of force to the point where it can counteract gravity, and you know you can oscillate it back and forth at that same amount of newtons, then there you go. You've achieved fluttering. You achieved fluttering. That's basically what it is. It's not oscillating back and forth between two spots, nor is it flight, nor is it hovering. You're fluttering, like literally. You are fluttering. It's basically what butterflies are doing. You're dynamically moving while flapping your wings or flapping whatever or moving something oscillatory, whether to maintain a state of balance or to basically oscillate back and forth in pressure to where it seems like you're oscillating, but you're basically just fluttering. That's really what it is. It's just a new way to flutter. Huh. So it takes you being able to create enough newtons of force to counteract your own gravity, as well as anything attached to you, combined with the frequencies that can output that amount of newtons per hertz. That is what will cause you to basically dynamically move up, down, left, right, even straight downwards if you wanted to. Yeah, by just quickly lowering your frequency. And then you go straight back up. Meaning, you do not necessarily need to place specific resonators across a hoverboard. What you would need is just one central vibratory system that's able to cause the entire structure to move, the entire hoverboard to move. And when you achieve that, you just use your body to naturally move you. You don't use no type of steering. You just use your body plus frequencies to dynamically move your y-axis. I also love how I'm presenting this too. But yeah, no, fluttering. I was finna say flight, and I was trying to say fluttering, but hovering came out. But it ain't hovering. Fluttering can be achieved. You can achieve dynamic movement in the air just by outputting the amount of force in newtons constantly over and over and over and over and over again. And dynamically affecting those frequencies is exactly what can cause you to move how you want to in the air. And it's all intuitive. I like that. And again, what am I gonna call this podcast episode? I think I'm gonna call it fluttering, because that's what you're doing basically. You're taking an oscillatory system, whether it's a wing system, a diaphragm, or a torque system, and you're using it to create oscillations at a specific amplitude that's able to counteract your weight and gravity. Reverse that. To counteract your amount of weight that gravity is affecting, so that you can basically be in the air and you affecting the frequency while that amount of amplitude is counteracting your weight in gravity, which causes you to oscillate between gravity affecting you and pressure bringing you back up. Hence the term fluttering. Yeah. Once you really put it like that, it's so easy to freaking hover now. Hmm. And you want to know something else that I just realized? All you would have to achieve is just the amplitude. There's no need to add more power. All you have to do is just to achieve the amount of amplitude necessary without affecting your frequency input. Meaning you could use torque, you could use a diaphragm, heck, you can use gargantuan wings to try and hover, no, to try and flutter and stay in one particular space or oscillate between spaces on the micron scale in terms of distance measurement. Meaning, I don't have, a person doesn't have to specifically choose one thing. if they want to choose whether or not they want to fly or flutter or just stay in one particular state. If a person wanted to, they could just use big gargantuan wings, or they can use a diaphragm, or they can use torque. Nothing is stopping that person from just using it, you know? Nothing is stopping that person from oscillating back and forth. Nothing is stopping that person from turning their body into that system. Nothing and no one. Huh. And all you would just have to figure out is how to achieve the amplitude. The frequency is easy. And that's the kicker. The frequency is easy. The amplitude. I got it. The amplitude is what has to be achieved. The frequency is easy. The amplitude is what has to be achieved. Enough amplitude that you can reach, then all of a sudden you can do it. Oh. Now realizing that. That's our next step. Find ways to basically increase the amplitude without affecting the frequency, nor without adding more energy in it. Right? It's like an electrical component that is able to raise the voltage without changing the amperage. Like you're not putting more batteries. There we go. I found the analogy. You're not putting more batteries so that you can raise the voltage. You have something that acts as a spring that's ready to raise that voltage while keeping the amperage the exact same. So that's what it is. Inductance coupling could do it. The same amount of turns slash coils, and you couple that with the primary. Hold on. Hold on. Power conversion. Hold on, wait a minute. If you see inductors as a spring, you're not creating more energy from nothing. You're just using the spring. And you're just setting that spring off. You have 3 secondaries. But you send one to the load. The other 2 are being added to match. Hold on. The other 2 are being added to match the amperage of the primary, but to raise the voltage of the primary, which causes you to have a higher frequency at the same amount of amperage. Hold on. Inductance coupling. You know what? We gotta find a way to do this. Oh, hold on. How long we been on this mug though? Well, we've been on here for freaking 39 minutes. Shee. I think I am on Singapore freaking servers. If I am on Singaporean servers, then hi, hello, I am Island. And welcome to the channel. Or to the Chanel. Welcome to Chanel. Welcome to Chanel where we can go down really for real. Ooh, ooh, ooh. But yeah, electromagnetic coupling that can raise the frequency while also keeping the amplitude the same. Hmm. That's the next step. And since we don't got any comments, all you gotta do is just close out this live. That's correct. And as always, stay peaceful, blessed, a miracle up another. You will appreciate what's taken care of. By divine one with all high source of God as well as everyone that truly and genuinely and deeply cares about you deeper than the souls. I remember that here you are loved. We care about you here. If no one else does, we do. I do know that no matter what, we are always here to get that listening ear. Don't be afraid to talk to us. Don't be afraid to talk with us. We're here for you when you need us. Don't be afraid. We're always here for you. Okay? Now come in for this hug. Yeah, come in. And as always, yeah. And as